Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. I'm Mark Sugiyama from Eclectic Arts up here in Seattle, Washington, where we're awaiting some snow apparently. And I think the south parts of the corridor are already starting to get it. And I understand tomorrow might be an interesting evening for many of us here in Western Washington because we're not used to large amounts of snow. And anytime we get it, then the news turns it into snowmageddon and snowpocalypse and all those kind of things. I always like to look at it. I don't like to drive in it because my car is a piece of crap when it comes to the snow, but we'll kind of deal with that once we get there, and that has no bearing on this. So thank you so much for joining me, and I really appreciate all of the support that's been going on and all the interviews that have been happening this week. And coming up on Monday, this is confirmed at 11:30 a.m., Annika von Heersberg, who is a fantastic singer, artist. Many people know her from The Gathering. She has a new solo album coming out at the end of February. She's probably my top 3, maybe top 5 vocalists of all time. And so I'm super stoked to be able to talk with her again. I first got to talk to her the one and only time in 2019 in person. And so virtually I'll get to talk to her on Monday. And it looks like I've got something coming up Wednesday and Friday next week already. I keep kind of telling myself to kind of take breaks, slow down. And right now, because of my schedule being open the way it is, it's basically temporary. I'm just trying to make the most of that time within reason, without burning myself out. So there are some new things coming up. So as I always say, if you follow me on Eclectic Arts Media on Instagram, that's where I post everything first. And then Facebook would be second. And then obviously we're here on YouTube. Let me make a little change over here like I always do. Hi, Industrial Girl. Hopefully you're doing well down there. And Storm Watch. Okay. Yeah, it's interesting that the weather folks, at least I think technology-wise, have really started to figure things out, because sometimes they can actually figure out between morning, afternoon, and evening what's going to happen. And it actually happens. It used to be like even 5 years ago or maybe 10 years ago, they're like 40% right. But lately they seem to nail things. So when all of them are saying the same forecast about Friday into Saturday, again, it'll be kind of nice to look at. It's definitely getting cold in my apartment already, which kind of signifies all that cold air that's coming through and it's going to make its appearance. But yeah, I'm again really glad to be here. And gosh, it's been, as my guest and I were talking pre-show, it's been almost a year, actually a little bit over a year of what's been going on with the lockdown, the pandemic, and it's just kind of a strange thing to think back on where things are at. But for the foreseeable future, I will be continuing to do these. I really appreciate people's support that's been coming in through the PayPal donation link per month. And once my kind of day job situation kind of resolves itself, then things should be pretty solid moving forward. And we'll kind of go from there. So let's get to getting. My guest today is an actor, musician, and videographer, among many other talents. Some of you know him from the Alice virtual tour last year. It's kind of weird to say that last year, but it's true. Please welcome to the Eclectic Arts virtual studio, Carl Garcia.
Hey, Mark.
Hey, Carl, how are you?
Doing just fine, just fine. You got some snow coming toward you up there, huh?
That's what the models are looking like. They were talking about it earlier, and as I've been watching it, they've been pretty much right that it could be anywhere from 5 to 10 inches coming.
Oh man, okay.
Yeah.
So do you get to like enjoy that at all, or is it just like a shutdown, like lock in, gotta wait it out kind of thing?
In general, most of the people kind of try to stay home, kind of like what we've been doing. So I guess we're well trained for this.
Yeah, you're ready to go.
Yeah, I used to drive over the mountain passes with my car in college, so I'm not afraid of the snow, because some people don't even like to drive in it, period. They could be in a 4x4 and they still don't want to be in it. I'm not one of those people, but I just know my car has been stuck enough times in the snow that that's just not smart to try to get out there in it. So I'll either walk places or I just kind of hunker down here, and we just kind of go from there. But yeah, it's funny to me that the snow up here, I understand, why the city kind of goes into like panic mode, but like even when it rains, which we're known for, people can't drive in the rain up here. I swear.
kind of feel like that's just, I mean, like everywhere, you know, because it's like, oh my God, water from the sky, it's hitting the ground. What did we do? And it just makes some sort of like primal thing panic or something. I don't know, because it's especially the same down here in LA. Like if there are even too many clouds in the sky, people are going to start swerving all over the road. And it's just out of control with just the amount of panic that happens over one little bit of weather. We had a windstorm, and not even a storm. It was just windy. Let's be honest here. It was windy. And people were like, "Well, should we just like stay inside?" Like, no, I don't know. And it's just like going from Texas to here where there's like actual, severe weather like what you have up there. It was just whenever it rains here and then maybe it hails once every 3 years or something, it's completely normal to somebody who's from there. But people I always forget that people from here don't know what hail is.
Yeah, it's kind of like, yeah, no, I think it's very true that up here we typically have mild weather, but yeah, we have these moments where in the wintertime, like, yeah, what's coming, and then even in the summertime when we're in triple digits, and people don't think of Seattle in that sense. But yeah, the rain thing, I've lived here all my life. I still don't understand. Like, don't you realize that you need to have further distance between your cars when you're driving because the road's slick, and especially after it's been dry for a few days, and then the oil mixes with, all that kind of, nope.
No.
Not at all. But hey, so let's start talking about some of the things that I learned during the fun table when you joined me. So I know some of those things, and we might bring some of it up again for people that weren't there and haven't had a chance to watch. But one thing I've noticed, and it probably has to do with your acting background, is my guess, is that your voice is so distinctive, and I can easily picture you doing voiceovers and that kind of work. Is that something that you learned by doing acting and lessons, or is that something that you've always had even when you were younger?
I don't know. I do know that the theater, I went to I think we talked about it, the LACC Theater Academy, and then right after that went to Stella Adler. So we always had voice coaches, always talking to us about our diction, about like where to place your voice, how to control it. So I think that just from being completely submerged in that environment for the better part of 4 years straight, I just kind of became second nature, because I do know that whenever I first moved and started going to school, my amazing voice teacher, Jennifer, was telling me that I had a slight Southern accent and I needed to get rid of it and just start talking the way that I talk now. But it could still be, a nice tool to have in my back pocket to just kind of pull out. But every once in a while, especially if it's like, if I get a little too excited when I'm explaining something, I'll just like underhand sling a word and it'll sound straight out of a Texas movie, almost too stereotypical. And I will just like be taken aback a little bit because everyone will just like stare at me for a second and be like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, yeah, it's just it comes out every once in a while, yeah. Like that's about it. And it doesn't help that two of my greatest friends and people that I work with the most are Natasha and Sasha, both also native Texans. And whenever we all three start talking together, there are so many y'alls getting thrown around in that conversation that it's almost too much.
Oh my gosh, I wish there was like an audio clip of the three of you talking.
I'm sure there probably will be at some point. If there's not already, because like especially pre-show, whenever Gordon and everybody, all the wise technicians are going through all the microphones and the wiring and everything, we're just in the backyard talking about whatever we're talking about. I'm sure you could probably hear it back there at some point.
Oh my gosh. Well, and so that kind of gives me a segue that so you were born and raised in Texas, is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah. Born and raised in Arlington, Texas, which is a city between Dallas and Fort Worth on the northeast side.
Okay. And how long did you live there, and what was life like for you when you were younger?
Lived there from the time I was born until I was 18 years old. And once I turned 18, I packed a bag and grabbed my skateboard and moved to LA. And luckily, I had already been here before, and I auditioned for the school that I went to, so I already knew the layout of everything, and I didn't necessarily know anybody, but I knew that I was going to, so that was an extra push to get me going. And growing up in Texas, man, let's see here. It was really hot during the summer. I'll say that. But other than that, it is definitely a city that is very comfortable because you usually go to school with everybody that you live around, because we have those kind of school districts to where, like, okay, so if everybody lives in this neighborhood, they're all going to go to this school. And because of that, like my across the street neighbors were my friends, my neighbors that lived down the road were really good friends, and everybody knew each other, even though it wasn't like a tiny town, but it was a city, and we all just ended up just like, obviously we all became extremely close with each other, and I still keep in touch with them to this day. And they're some of the greatest people I've ever met. It was really hard to have to say goodbye to them, especially when I was 18 years old and we were all finally adults, and we were starting to, adults, and we were starting to get like our life started and everything. And as they were staying in Texas, I was moving 1,400 miles away.
Wow. Yeah. And I'm just seeing, so Industrial Girl, Carl just answered your question about, well, how was the heat there in Texas?
It was bad. Still is. I mean, I still remember it, like still to this day, if I ever get to go home for like a few days during the summertime, it's literal. It's there was one time it was like 114 to 116. So like you can sit in the shade of a tree and stick your hand out into the sun, and it's like sticking your hand in an oven. You can actually feel the heat of the sun just like, doing its work right there on your hand. It's out of control.
Yeah, that sounds awful.
Yeah, so I moved to Southern California, where I thought it was going to be 70 year round, and then we started having triple digits here too, and I'm just like, God, I just can't escape it.
Wow. Yeah, no, that's, again, for someone like me that's been up here in the Seattle area where we have a mild climate for the most part. Yeah, we don't like super hot triple digit stuff, and we don't really like it super cold either. And we're already going to get it. So
you got to come down here, Mark. There are no seasons down here. That's the thing. It just gets really hot, and we have a fall, spring, and then we go back to summer, and then 3 days of winter, and that's it. And then it's like 70 to 80 degrees all the rest of the days.
Wow. So that sounds a little bit like, I went to college in Central Washington, where it's kind of like being in the Midwest. We have a really long summer, a really long winter. Spring and fall last about a month over there.
It's just those transitional periods,
Yeah, I remember it snowed in October when I was over there in college. I was like, "What's going on right now?"
Oh man, that'd be an interesting Halloween holiday. Just a snowy Halloween. That'd be. Yeah, I gotta try this out. I gotta get in on this.
It was definitely took us some adjusting for me coming from over here on this side of the mountains. But so you mentioned that you had already been to LA, and you're going there for your acting work and study and that type of thing. What prompted you to want to get into that field from the get-go?
Into the acting field?
Yeah.
Oh man. I think that it was always something that was in there, because even when I was a very, very young child, one of my earliest memories that I have was having to wake up at like, I want to say like 3:30 or 4 in the morning when I was a really little kid. And it was my brother, my sister, my mom, and my dad. We all have to wake up early because my dad had to go to work, and we only had one car. So we would have to take him to work, and my mom obviously couldn't leave us at home in the middle of the night. So we had to go. And after we dropped my dad off, we would turn around, we would come back, we would get a box of Dunkin' Donuts, and we would go and sit down in the living room. My mom would go back to sleep, and we would sit there and watch a movie, usually Short Circuit. I think that was kind of where it all stems from, because the movie watching experience, even though it was usually just that one movie at that time, was very, very cathartic and very comforting to me. And as I got older and as I started to expand my knowledge of movies, because my whole family, we're all just like cinephiles. We like the back room of my parents' house, like all the walls just have VHSs everywhere, every single movie. And we've seen pretty much all of them. And they're even the bad ones are great, and I love them all. And it kind of it grew from there. And then I think the turning point for me, because originally I was going to be a baseball player. That was it. Like that was exactly what I was going to do. I had been playing since I was a little kid, and I made my team in high school and everything. And it just wasn't doing anything for me anymore. And I knew at that point, after I finally made that team, that this was not what I was going to do. So I had to start like kind of shifting and figuring out what I wanted to do. And luckily, my brother, who was in college at that time, I think it was around 2007, he came into town and we went to the AFI Film Festival in Dallas. And we saw a movie called The Rocket. And this film was still to this day one of the greatest things I've ever seen. And it was about the first professional hockey player from France moving to Canada to play professional hockey, and like his struggle he went through with that. Because before that, all of the movies that I had seen were like big blockbusters, you know, and like I didn't realize that there was like this small independent film community. And once I found that, I was like, I think I know what I'm going to do. Because the performances were amazing. The cinematography was amazing, even though I didn't realize it at the time. And there was just this one moment of sitting in that theater in the movie with my brother, just watching this amazing magic just happen on screen. And I guess that was kind of where I decided that I was like, you know what, I'm going to quit doing sports and I'm joining theater next year.
Hmm.
And then once I did, it all just made sense. Like getting to go through and read plays and read monologues and do all of this stuff, and like being on stage was terrifying at first, but eventually I got used to it. And then once I got used to it, I started realizing that what I was doing on stage, or what I was doing for that audience, was what the movies did for me when I was younger. So, and it still feels that the fire is still very, very much alive, even though it's gotten a lot more frustrating now. It's still very much alive in there, and it's all I really, really, really care about.
Okay, no, that's a fascinating story, especially when you've got to a point. And I think other guests have kind of talked about this too, where they were on a track, in your case, baseball, and you think, well, this is what's going to happen. And eventually it just stops kind of basically resonating with you, and then kind of realize something else that should be your path, which becomes your passion, which becomes your fire. And when you were going through like your courses and your study for acting, did you have a preference between film, television versus live theater, or did it not matter? You wanted all of it?
Oh man, look, I was dead set on being on film. I was so ready. I was thinking I was so cool because I knew what The Godfather was and stuff, you know, and all of these great movies. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to theater school because that probably looks better, you know, it probably looks better on a resume and blah, blah, blah. And just thinking I had it all figured out at, 17, 18 years old. And luckily I did go to theater school, and then I found such a passion for live performances. Because before, what I thought of theater was like, we're like, because the theater school that I went to in Arlington, everybody was very, very much into musicals, and everybody was into the big theatrical shows, and like Wicked and Book of Mormon and all of these amazing things, which are all fantastic shows, but it just wasn't something that I saw myself doing very much. I tried and failed pretty hard. And then like whenever I got into theater school, we started reading these plays by Neil Abutes. and by David Mamet and by all of these playwrights that were like, you could just smell the alcoholism in the pages, you know? Like, it was so like dark and gritty and raw. And I just started like loving reading these plays and just seeing these really, really messed up situations come to life. I don't know why I was so drawn to it, but it was just such an amazing experience to get to discover all of this kind of stuff. And after that, I was like, I legitimately thought to myself, maybe I just want to do theater. Like, maybe this is all I want to do. Maybe I just want to do like crappy off Broadway plays in a basement somewhere or something like that. But luckily, because after I went to theater school, I went to a different school and I learned how to act on film and for commercials and everything. And I realized there's a nice balance. So I stuck around and I'm able to do both now. I actually belong to a couple of theater companies to where I still get to do a lot of great live performances. But at the same time, I get to turn around and do, you know, film stuff and everything. None of it pays, but I get to do it, which is good.
Well, yeah, that's cool that you have both areas to pull from, and it just seems like for me growing up as a kid, I was definitely, and my family was kind of the same way. I mean, we watched movies all the time. If it was going to the theater once, and I'm old enough that once VHS actually became a thing, that we could actually go to a store and rent stuff and then buy them and all that kind of thing. And I didn't really understand theater because I didn't really see much of it back then when I was growing up. It wasn't until much later that I started to appreciate it, just like I appreciate live music, and seeing bands perform is something very similar where everyone's kind of working towards a common goal of trying to express themselves. And it's you could have someone playing the villain and someone playing the, you know, the good person, but they're all trying to work together to make the show happen. Yeah. Let alone what's going on behind the scenes, which is a whole other world.
That's a whole other drama that you can write about.
And before I forget, I see Industrial Girls asking, and she was curious, wow, why did you choose LA instead of New York to pursue acting?
Because I was dead set that I was going to do film. Like especially when I was younger, like, and there was a time that I thought I was really going to go to New York because it was kind of a dark period in my life. I had finished my first school and I lost my place to live. So I was then living in my car, and it was like, okay, you know what? I'll just stick this out for a little while, because at that time, even though I was living in there, I was still booking a good amount of work, and it was pretty consistent. And I was like, you know what? I'll just ride this out for a little while, because, you know, I'm booking, and I was at the high that everybody talks about, like the roller coaster. I was up here at this peak where I was booking like 2 gigs a week, which was great. But then eventually gravity took over and we went right down. And I was so dead set on bringing it back up that I completely got like lost in everything that I was trying to do, that I didn't realize that I was just like, I was sleeping in my back seat. And whenever I finally woke up, and this was, I think like 12 months later that this happened, I finally woke up and like looked around and saw that I was, you know, eating cold SpaghettiOs straight out of the can, and I had my pack of water and everything. And I was thinking to myself, you know what? This is about as low as I can go. If I'm going to go to New York, now's the time to do it, I think. And luckily I stuck around though, because if I hadn't, then I wouldn't have everything that I have now. But there was that one moment where I literally had nothing here, so I was pretty sure that if I went to New York and tried it out, that if that was going to be the time to do it, it would have been then. But once again, I'm very, very happy that I didn't. I still eventually want to, don't get me wrong. I love that city over there. I want to see it. I want to be in it. I want to do something over there. I want to work there. But I really very much enjoy living here with my girlfriend and my dog, and like just everything that I already have.
Okay, all right. And yeah, I remember you talking about that period during the Fun Table session, when things were, you know, pretty rough, when it was going from month to month, and then it kind of became, you know, a few more months, kind of a thing. It makes perfect sense that when you got to a certain point, you start thinking about, well, there's nothing keeping me here. Maybe I will go to New York or go, you know, anywhere else. But then, like you said, as fate would have it, that you stayed there, and the things started to happen for you. So, really good, and other people you started to meet. Hi, Captain Blackwood. Good to have you join us. I'm glad you got off work early. I actually have to go to work in a few hours.
Uh,
But so when you're doing all you're, like you said, you're booking a couple gigs a week, which was really good. And have you done something where you've created something just from the ground up on your own? Like, did you do a short film on your own? Have you directed something? It was like, this is my own project.
yeah, actually, kind of recently. I'm still in the middle of, well, not in the middle. I'm at the tail end of editing it. It's just my whole problem was I had to learn how to edit in order to do it. Yeah, there was this one film that I just wrote and shot with this great team of people. I think what am I calling it right now? I can't remember what I think I'm calling it Ignored right now, but I'm not sure if that's going to stay the title. But basically, it's just it's a short film that I wrote that is more or less an adaptation of different conversations that I had with my friends in Texas whenever we would always be skateboarding, which was usually about, oh man, she broke up with me. I don't know if I can do this. And I actually do like it. That's the thing. I do like it, which I don't say about my own stuff very much. And the co-star that I got the opportunity for her to come and work, Zenith, who was fantastic in it. She just absolutely killed. And the hardest part for me was going through all the clips and picking out which one I liked the most. And it's coming around. I actually really like it right now. I think I just have to do a little bit more color correcting and add some music to it, which I'm going to be asking the Alice people if they would mind if I use that. And the titles, and then it'll be done. So I'm thinking by the end of this month, it should be ready to go.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, try and get into some festivals and get the next one rolling.
Nice. Well, as you kind of know, if you get it to a point and you want someone to take a look at it to write a review, I'd be happy to do that.
Definitely. Actually, that's the thing. God, I hate saying it so much. I feel like I fall into the cliche categories, like, oh yeah, I'm writing a script. Oh my God. But I am writing something now that I'm 75 pages into right now. I'm trying to get up to at least 90 to 100. And I'm going to be working on it, hopefully with Sasha. She's going to help me produce it and everything, of just like this big, long feature, like full-blown feature. I'm going to drop every dollar that I have into it and just basically put all the cards on the table and see what happens. And once that one's ready, I'll definitely send it over to you, and just make sure that you're honest about it. That's all.
I'll be honest about it. But I will also be honest in a professional way, as I've talked about with some people. Well, there's films that didn't resonate with me, but I usually am very upfront with the creatives involved with it and kind of explain why. I don't sit there and slam stuff. Not that I'm going to slam your thing, but I'm just kind of saying that from the scope of things, I've had a run of films that I've had to review recently that's like, oh boy, why did they make it? And usually there's something to balance it out. Not so good with the good. That's not so good like every single one of them, except for maybe one. But having said that, that's part of the process. There's music that I like. There's some music that doesn't really work for me, and everything else. So, and I see a question came in about how much of a challenge for you was it to convert to the Twitch world, Carl?
Oh God, I didn't even know we were doing that until after the band told me we were. It was interesting and challenging both at the same time. Like converting into it, because it was going from like having to like go to the venue with the camera and like shooting them live and getting the audience and doing all that stuff. We got to do something like that where we did a Instagram takeover at the CIA club over here in North Hollywood, and which was a great night. Oh my God, it was so much fun. But then it got to the point to where it was almost like I was stage managing again, because that's one of the jobs that I used to do back in the day, where I had a switchboard in front of me with one hand on that, and then the other hand on the camera, like moving it back and forth. So we were switching cameras and moving angles and doing all this and trying to make sure that, you know, the feed doesn't crash out or anything, which it did, obviously. Like if people followed us on tour a few times, every once in a while we had some technical difficulties. But the transition at first was very frustrating because it was all so new. And I am not a tech genius like Scott is, or like Gordon is, or like any of them are. And so if something happened, I would just throw my hands up, back away, and start yelling for Scott to come and fix it. And so I think I kind of got off easy on that. But other than that, it was so challenging. But once we got it, it was just amazing after we figured out how to make it work, because you were then able to realize all of the potential that was opened up now doing it virtually.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as much as I miss doing live shows and like being in the audience and like hearing it and being a part of it, like the virtual stuff, I figured out one thing that I would do for one of the songs where it was like this layered filter, to where whenever I'm changing the cameras and everything, one of the cameras was still on, but it would get grainy, and then the other one would come in through the back, and it just added this kind of new way of looking at the screen. And I remember accidentally stumbling onto that and like, oh, all right, well, we're definitely using this now. So it was at first it was really challenging. It was really hard, but once we figured it out and got the process, then it was like sky's the limit on what we can do. Because then we were able to build a set, and then we were able to do different things with the lights now that we knew that the camera was able to work with these kind of lights and those kind of lights. And we were able to move people around to see if we could maybe put Gordon in that corner and see if he would be seen better, but he wasn't because it was too dark. So we moved him back over here. And we were constantly moving, and it was amazing. It was something that I would never trade for anything, because I feel like very few people have gotten that kind of experience now. It's like a live television experience in somebody's living room.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Having continued doing obviously these virtual interviews that started with the Alice folks, that talking to some of the guests and their experiences from last year into this year, from doesn't matter what their artistic background is, and most of them, you know, didn't really do anything like what the Alice folks did. If they did any kind of live streaming, it was just kind of, you know, once a month here or there kind of a thing. None of them did tour stuff where it was like, you know, multiple nights in a row, weeks in a row in terms of the first leg. And so and it makes perfect sense that for you guys, once you kind of got your bearings and the lay of the land of how things worked, and once that was established and the foundation was there, yeah, then really the sky was the limit. You could start getting creative with things. But initially, it's like, where's this foundation at? And then once you felt good, then you can move on with it. And I, even from my small part of the world, that was no different. And I've written about that I was, you know, pretty much a mess trying to figure things out.
Yeah.
The first X amount of interviews, and they're like almost embarrassing to watch in terms of me, not the guests or anything, but it was just like a process. And once the process got good and people got comfortable, then off you go.
Yeah, and it was great. And the thing is, the only way it would have happened is if with the dedication of the band had to make it work. Because with anybody else, or not with anybody else, but with some other people, I know that once we hit the 100th roadblock, that would have been it. That would have been just like, you know what? Obviously, this isn't going to work. Like, we've had 100 snags in this thing, and it's just not going to work. And I know that for some other groups, that would have just been it, understandably, because it's like, how do we do this? But with this group, they were like, oh, yeah, well, that happened. Let's write it down and let's fix it and keep moving. And that just kept happening, especially during our tech week and everything, where it was a lot of trial, a lot of error, and then eventually we got there. And I'm just really happy that they all had the dedication and the passion and just like the overall just drive to make it work. Because I think that was the main thing about what we were doing in there, was just make it work.
Yeah, well, that's I think for maybe like for hardcore fans like Captain Blackwood, Industrial Girl, and some other folks that maybe aren't quite joining us yet, I bet you that's not a surprise that the Alice folks just kept pushing. It's like, yeah, we're gonna figure this out, and yeah, here's the 200th roadblock, but we're ready for the next 100 until we kind of get, something, that we're proud of.
Yeah.
And knowing that, yeah, there's going to be things to tweak. There always are. and just kind of just moving forward with it. And, that was a valuable lesson for me to learn too. It's like, okay, sometimes I need to relax.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not the end of the world.
Yeah. And that's another thing about their drive that I realized is that, like, with this group, don't have an idea unless you're ready to follow through with it. Because if you come up with an idea and they like it, it's gonna happen. Like, we had like the idea for, the clock, and I was thinking like the clock and the backdrop and everything. And I remember Sasha telling me about it. I'm like, oh yeah, that's cool and everything. We'll make it work if we make it work and blah, blah, blah. It's just like, no, we're going to the hardware store. We're going there. We bought the tools. We got the wood. We got it back there. And we cut everything out, and we took like 2 days to build that thing. And I was like, oh, cool. So that's done now. Like, what if we had a little puppet stage and everything with little lights in it and stuff. And she's like, okay, let's do it. And just like anytime we had any sort of cool idea or cool little change or something like that, it wasn't spoken of unless we knew that we could make it work. And every single time that anybody came up with an idea, it usually ended up happening, which was a fantastic environment to work in.
Yeah. Again, for me, if I go back to when I first met the band, which was in 2017, I want to say, I remember distinctly Sasha and Tosh saying in the video interview that I was doing that they are doers, and everyone in the band are doers. So if something's going to happen, they don't wait for tomorrow, or they don't wait for even a minute. So it's like, okay, let's just move forward.
Yep.
And I've tried to adopt some of that myself because I'm not that way. I tend to think, I try to look at all the angles of it first before I jump in. They'll just jump in and just start making it happen.
we're the same in that. Which is why I'm really glad I got to work with all of them so personally, because I feel like after that year-long virtual tour, basically, I did get to adopt some of that, which is how I ended up being able to just like throw the gauntlet down on that short film that I was telling you about and get it done. And I was like, I wasn't trying to hire somebody else to like send out the emails and somebody else to do this. Somebody else is like, no, I'm going to send the emails. I'm going to do the paperwork. I'm going to submit everything. I'm going to make sure I'm going to personally make sure that this gets done. And it did, until I hit this problem of not being able to edit. So now I'm on YouTube constantly trying to look up lessons on how to do this and how to just do basic transitions and like all of that stuff, which I've slowed down, unfortunately, but I'm trying to rev myself up to just get to the finish line on it. And that's where these amazing people are coming into play.
Yeah, and you'll get there, because it has to be a mix of, their drive that you start to adopt, just like I started to adopt. At the same time, it's got to be what you're also comfortable with as a person, because what your limit is when you need to take a little bit of a break. And as long as you don't take too long of a break and you get back to it, then all is good. I'm no different, that sometimes I just hit it hard, and then I'll hit a wall.
Yeah, that wall, man.
Yeah, that wall's a bitch. So it's
just like, oh, that's a big wall. I don't know if I'm gonna get around this thing right now. I'm gonna go take a nap.
Yeah, exactly. That's like, and I mentioned to you, pre-show that tomorrow, so Friday, is kind of like my full day off from everything. But then what's been happening, which is a nice thing, is that for a lot of international guests to do interviews, they need to do them fairly early my time, because it's like 6 or 7 their time at night. So, hey, Mark, can you do something on Friday? And typically I would say no, but then I start thinking, well, when else are we going to do this? So, okay, yes, let's do this. But like tomorrow, I said no. There was somebody that already asked, and I said, I'm not. That's my day.
Yeah, you need a rest day every once in a while.
Yeah, I can prepare for the snow.
Yeah, exactly. Get all the layers on. Yeah, you just need a day to just like sleep in.
Yeah, and just kind of recharge those batteries, all those things that people say, and then you kind of get back to it. But yeah, no, that drive definitely helped being a part of the Alice tour. And again, I wasn't even around there like you were, in terms of like literally working with them on sets and everything else that was going on. But just being on the peripheral of it, it definitely filtered over to me. So it's like, yeah, just here we are.
Mm-hmm.
Number 120 whatever virtual interviews that I'm on.
Yeah, here you are.
So you just keep on working with it. And I see Captain Blackwood. I'm with you, Mark. I move, but not after thinking. Yeah, that's how I've kind of always been. And I'm somewhere in the middle now. I think a little bit better about not thinking too much, but I just can't help but look at all the different angles of things so that I can try to be as successful as possible without falling completely on my face, which is still going to happen. But if I can prevent some of that, I try to.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I feel you there. Like, especially with anything that's I've done film wise, because you have to look at things from so many different angles. But it's like you got to find that delicate balance of not looking at it for too long. Because if you look at it for too long, even if it's something really good, it starts to look bad. It's like saying the same word over and over again, and it starts to sound weird in your head.
Mm-hmm.
Like it kind of happened with which music video was it? I think it was the Part of Me music video. We were shooting everything in the black light, and whenever all the band was there and they were getting ready and everything, and I was trying to figure out the camera settings to make sure that the black light looked good. And I got there after like 2 hours or so, just like messing with white balance and exposure rate and everything. And I got there, but then I sat there for too long and I stared at it. And I realized that I don't know if I like this. It's coming across purple. Do we want it purple? No, because that's not gonna look right with the greens and the oranges and everything. Those colors don't mix. Why are these colors even being used? And then it just goes way off the rails. But once we got everybody ready and we started filming it, and I put everything back to the original settings that I did at the 2 hour mark, it ended up looking the way it did, and that was also a lot of Sasha's editing work that she did with it as well. But yeah, just overthinking it can just be the death of something.
Yeah, it can basically suffocate it.
Yeah.
And I know that too well. And I think Industrial Girl's kind of with us because she says she's an overthinker as well.
Yeah.
But I wanted to also ask, so you have the short film, you're working on a screenplay that you're writing that you talked about. Do you foresee yourself involving, and you mentioned asking the Alice folks for the short film, but do you think you would be ever doing some original music? Because I know you're a musician as well.
God, if I could get better at playing music, yeah. Maybe, I don't know, because I enjoy playing music as much as I possibly can, because I'm a cello player, and I can play a boron, the Irish drum I think we were talking about last time.
Mm-hmm.
I've got my basses and everything. They're hung up on the wall, and I'll do like scales and lessons and as much as I can. But I feel like if I'm going to start writing music, I need to get a lot better before I can do that, before I subject anybody to that kind of stuff.
Okay. I thought, yeah, just off the top of my head, that maybe you would try to maybe even do like, I don't know, the intro or the outro to like one of your films or something like that.
That is something I've thought of, though. Like, I have thought about doing just like little, like personal, like Instagram short films, basically, because content, like, I always thought, like, okay, what if I just like shot a 45-second scene and made it kind of like found like some deep personal thing to like artistically express, and then put like a cello track underneath it. Like, that's definitely in my head, and I definitely want to do it. And I wish I had my old cello teacher with me at all times, because he always knew how to get me to start writing music. But that's definitely something that's always been in my head. But once, like what we've talked about earlier in this interview, that wall, we'll get there, and I'll start overthinking it and everything else, and then I'll go into that spiral of like, nobody gives a shit about what I'm doing anyway, so I'm just gonna go take a nap. But like, once I get over that hurdle, then I'm sure that things will start to flow out a little bit more.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I mean, I could see you down the road, maybe trying to do, if it's something on Instagram or something where you're putting like all the things you kind of have your hands in, with your acting background, your music background, your videography background. Maybe you can throw a little baseball in there. I don't know. I mean,
hell yeah. Just make it about baseball. That'd be great. Yeah. I do miss playing every once in a while.
When you were last playing, what position were you playing? I think you may have told me, but I don't remember.
I was a relief pitcher.
Relief. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
And you look like you have height to you. How tall are you?
I'm 6'4".
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was that came in handy when I was playing, because I was a relief pitcher. But my thing that I did was I pitched sidearm.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So because for a long time I was always trying to throw overhand, but my shoulder, I guess, didn't rotate that way or something. And I had one coach tell me, he's like, "Hey, let's just try this. Try throwing sidearm on purpose." And I was like, "Oh, I'm not supposed to do that. Like, my coach just told me this, that, and the other." He's like, "Yeah, I know what they told you, but just try." And the next pitch that I threw, I slung it in sidearm, and it was straight down the middle, and there was no pain in my shoulder, no pain in my elbow, and I was like, "Oh my God, it works so well." So that became kind of my thing. Like, I was a relief pitcher, and it worked because the first pitcher that ever went up was always overhand. But then whenever I came in to finish off the game, it was sidearm, so it switched everything up. So none of the batters knew how to readjust to it and everything. So it was a good skill to have. But then the politics of high school baseball kind of killed it for me, I guess.
Oh man, no, and you're absolutely right. Even though I'm a Seattle Mariners fan, if I can say that, that's still my team, even if they haven't been to the playoffs since 2001.
Yeah, they'll get there at some point.
Yeah, maybe before I die. I don't know.
Yeah, at least they didn't get there and not win what the Rangers have done.
Oh well, that's true.
Come on, it's like right there.
Yeah, I think the one year my mom and I went to like 25 games in the season.
Yes.
They were just and I love the ballpark. The ballpark, I'll never change my opinion of. It's just the team. It's been like up and down ever since 2001. And yeah, we've got some prospects. We've had prospects other years too, and they never know how to develop them, or they trade them away for some veteran who can't do shit. But
yeah.
But what you were saying, though, that makes perfect sense. That if you got a overhand thrower and then the reliever comes in and starts throwing sidearm, especially if you're and if you got some height to you coming off that mound, that's really going to mess up the hitters.
Yeah, and it was, oh man, it was so much fun, especially whenever if I was on one day and I was just like putting them right down the middle every time. Oh man, it was so great. Yeah, I miss going to baseball games mostly. Like, there was actually fun story real quick. Whenever I was growing up, both my parents they worked for American Airlines, so we got to do traveling. And after we had been traveling for a little while, we started trying to figure out things that would be fun. So we got to my brother came up with the idea of seeing a professional baseball game in every time zone throughout the country. So we got to see a San Francisco Giants game on one week. We got to go see the Colorado Rockies. Then I think we went to see, oh man, who did we see? They're going to hate me for not remembering this. I can't remember if it was the Detroit Tigers or the Cleveland Indians. And then after that, where did we go? I think it was Florida after that, where we got to go see Tampa Bay play. And I might be very much lying to you. I might be getting a message from my brother right now if he's watching. I'm very sorry, y'all. No, yeah, okay, so we're gonna get away with this for a little while. But it was just an experience to get to go and do that, and yeah, going to baseball games is just some of the best times ever.
Well, this begs the question. So, do you have a favorite baseball team?
I gotta go with the Texas Rangers.
Okay.
Team I grew up with, like the ballpark in Arlington, getting to go and sit in the bleacher seats with my friends in the middle of the day in the summertime when our pants are basically melting onto the bleachers. And oh god, it was especially it was fun, except until we got to dollar hot dog night and we would be spending about $10 on hot dogs. It got a little crazy after that, but that's about it.
That was one of the things I kept saying that the Mariners needed to do, not so much recently, but even like 5 years ago, is that the concession prices are like they rival movie theater prices basically.
Yeah.
And it's like, can't you do one night where I know other ballparks were doing this? Yeah, you had $1 hot dog night or $2 beer night or whatever. They would never do it. And then I think the last 2 seasons they started adopting it because no one's coming to the games.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why you do it. It's like you can get people to come. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, cool. We can get like $2 giant glasses of beer, and we can see how many hot dogs we can eat in one setting before dying, I guess. But like, oh man, that was like a whole thing. And it was just always so much fun. And unfortunately, the ballpark in Arlington is closing down. I think they're changing it into something else, like an XFL stadium or some crap like that. But I guess no disrespect to the XFL. I don't even know. But yeah, it was back in 2019. We got to see our final game there, and my dad actually, he works for the ballpark now, and he got us like these box seats and everything, and we got to see like our final game the right way, and it was, oh man, it was amazing to get to go do that.
Nice. No, it sounds awesome. That totally sounds awesome. And I had this random idea kind of pop into my head about so most of the Alice folks that were watching the streams know about you being on your alter ego being Metal Moo.
Yeah.
For some reason, I can kind of picture you doing like a little, maybe it would be for your Instagram or something, of Metal Moo, I don't know, at a baseball game or trying to throw up some balls or something or something.
No, would they be like full size baseballs, or would they have to be like 2 scale to Metal Moo?
Oh gosh, I don't know. It almost would be funny if they were full size.
Yes, exactly. Okay, we're on the same page here then.
Or maybe
he's like trying to catch the ball and everything, but it's as big as he is.
Yeah, knocks him back.
Okay, so if we do any like Metal Moo music videos or something like that, we'll do something with that just because of this moment.
Perfect. Yay.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and I know you were telling us during the fun table about the origins of Metal Moo, how it's kind of happened almost by accident because no one in the band wanted to do the in between promo stuff one night during the Alice tour, and so it's kind of like, well, I've got this puppet in my car or whatever, and it just kind of rolled from there. Is that basically right?
Well, it was actually one of the puppets that they keep in the van.
Oh, in the van.
Everything. Yeah, I think they use them for promotional stuff while they're on the road, and there's this one night where everybody was very understandably just tired because this was our first tour, and we had just spent like weeks trying to figure out how to do the Twitch stream, and then we got the Twitch stream, and now we're trying to figure out how to keep it going, and everybody's getting ready, and we're like calling out, like, okay, who wants to do the live announcements tonight? And just crickets. Understandably, nobody wanted to do it, and it was just like, and I'm pretty sure it was Gordon who suggested it. I might be wrong on that, but we decided that, okay, let's just have the puppet introduce the band. So we hooked up a little microphone to the board, and I put the puppet on my hand and just did my impersonation of my dog, and that's it.
Yeah, no, that's right. You talked about that.
And then the second tour, we ended up doing a song with Metal Moo, and everyone enjoyed the song. So it's like, okay, third leg of the tour, we're going to build him a stage, and he's going to get a whole night of just hosting metal music, and which was fantastic because you got to get those Algerian metal bands and everything. And like, I think we had one from Brazil as well. Oh God, just international metal music night was just, it was so great.
So what is anything happening with Metal Moo in the future? Is that something you're kind of keeping with the Alice folks?
I think that's definitely going to be staying with like the Alice and Bash people, because like I feel like that's just where it lives, where Metal Moo lives, I would love to do more stuff with it, and I'm hoping that, and we even like talked about what Metal Moo, the future of Metal Moo after everything opens back up. And we were thinking that it could be like a little a fun little intermission for their shows. So they'll be performing and everything, and maybe we'll bring the stage out, and Metal Moo will do like a song or two, or just like talk to the audience for a little while, and then bring the band back on, and then just make it a part of the whole experience that is the Alice project.
Well, that would be amazing.
So once everything opens back up and we're all vaccinated and safe, we'll see where Metal Moo will get his hoof in.
Metal Moo on the road.
That'd be great. Oh man, I want to go on the road so bad.
I can already envision T-shirts and other merchandise.
Oh yeah, no, we like, and that's the thing. The graphic. If anybody goes back and looks at the archives of it, the graphic that we have on the sides of the stage, we specifically made that stencil because it would look good on a T-shirt. Like, so, Metal Moo dreams are big. They're big right now. Like, so hopefully we can make something work out of it. And if not, it was just an experience to get to do some screaming as a cow puppet.
Oh, well, and Carl, something else I want to bring up, because we obviously follow each other on social media, particularly Instagram. That and you mentioned this earlier. You skateboard a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. That is the untouchable professionalism goal that I have. Like, I absolutely love doing that, and that's what I was doing this morning, because I had a kids show that I had to do, because another thing that I do for some extra money is I will put on kids performances for fire safety for elementary schools. And we used to go to the schools and do it in person, but now we're doing it via Zoom. But yeah, I woke up early this morning and went over to the West LA courthouse and got a session in, got a few video clips and everything that I'll probably be sharing later on today. But yeah, skateboarding has been a very, very big part of my life ever since I was like 15 or 16, I think.
Okay, and so, like you were saying, was there ever a point, maybe not now, but could have been, I don't know, 10 years ago, where you thought, I'm going to go semi-pro, pro as a skateboarder?
I still think that. To this day, I'm a month away from 30, and I still want that. Let's see here. Yeah, when I was in high school, actually, and we would be me and my friends, we would be skating in the morning before school, and then we would skate on our lunch breaks, and then we would skate after school. And unfortunately, back then, we didn't have these free skate parks to go to. We would have to go and do like the whole like skateboarder thing and go to like a courthouse or government building that has all the best concrete and get chased off by the police. And we would do that for so long. And then we had like this giant parking lot across the street from our school. It was the bakery parking lot, and it was really flat ground. So that's where we learned how to do everything. And after I moved from Texas to California, I got a lot better, because I was like in this city where so much of it has happened and so much of skateboarding culture has just been a part of for so long. And then something happened. I don't know what. I think it was a little mixture of school and trying to do the acting thing, where I kind of stopped for a few years. And I still did it every once in a while. Don't get me wrong. It never fully left. But especially whenever I was coming up on the end of my graduation and everything, because I was directing a play at the time. So I just didn't have any time to do anything except that. I would skate constantly, and then those last couple of years happened, and I didn't have to be at work all the time anymore. And the only time I did have to do anything obligatory was the Alice stuff, and I would have my mornings and afternoons completely free. So I jumped back on the board, and I was not as good as I used to be, but I think I'm back to where I was, and now I'm at a point where I can keep on progressing. So yeah, if I could just get at least a sponsorship so I didn't have to pay for boards all the time, I would be so happy about that. Because I'm losing so much money, just breaking boards every few weeks and having to go and replace them. Just any local skate shop anywhere, like I'll send away for them or something like that. I need some free boards here.
Well, yeah. With your video skills, I know you've been, having somebody's been filming you out there when you've been doing your thing. Maybe you put that sizzle reel together and try to hit up some board companies. Like, hey, I'm looking for some sponsorship.
Well, we'll get there. Hopefully, if I do, then it'll just be so nice. To just have a supply and everything just in the back of my car ready to go. Because right now I'm at a point to where I don't really buy one unless I break one.
Mhm.
So once I break it, then my session that day is over, even if it's at the beginning of the day. And it's just like, crap. So now I got to go buy a new one. It's kind of sucks. But I think the thing that I love the most about what I've been doing over the past year is I've been going out every single day. And it's very much like the musician community or the actor community. The more you do it, the more you start to know certain people, and the more you start to meet other people, and then you basically get an entire community of people that are just as driven as you are, and then you can do this together. And then you start to like meet better people, and then you get better, and then you help them get better, and it's just like this constant amazing just community of building up on each other to where everybody can just be as good as they possibly can.
That's awesome to hear. And yeah, it is kind of right that if you keep spending time with whatever that area is, if it's, you know, sports, musicians, theater folks, skateboarders, gardeners, you just start networking. Basically, you just can't help it if you're just constantly doing it, because you're all passionate about the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of one of the things that typically is nice when we can go back to being at concerts. Then everyone's there for a reason for the most part. Yeah, there's a few people that maybe got drugged there or something, but the other people they want to be there and they love the band just like you love the band, and
yeah,
you can't wait to share that exchange of energy with everybody. So that makes perfect sense. And Industrial Girl, thanks for joining us. I see that you have to go feed your cats.
Duty calls.
Yeah. And Carl, just to kind of wrap this up, so you mentioned with the short film, you mentioned the screenplay. Is there anything else that's kind of coming up in the next 6 months or so that you're working on?
Oh man, I'm hoping some more stuff with Alice comes up soon. We have a music video that we shot a while ago that is in the very capable hands of Sasha, and she's been sending me cuts of it. And oh my god, it's making me look like I'm actually good at being a cinematographer. It's so good. So that should be released at sometime soon. I'm not sure exactly when, because we're all very much involved with like, okay, what do we want this to look like? How do we want this to be, affected? So yeah, we have that music video. I've got that short film that should be coming out. I mean, not coming out, but I'm gonna finish it and start submitting it to some festivals. Skating every day. Actually, life is as horrible as some things are going right now. Life is actually decent, so I'm okay with that.
Well, I'm glad to hear it. I think it's been for me just a real pleasure to get to meet you during the Alice tour and being around you. And yeah, we kind of joked around how, I only heard you count me back in from video clips or whatever. But
yeah,
like, no, I knew the fact that you were basically the sixth member of the band and all the work that you were putting in with the band down there, that's what was making things look as good as they were. So, and it's been just fun to kind of, be brought into that group with the band, with you, everyone else they're affiliated with. So I really appreciate you taking the time, and some of that I can consider an actual friend. So I thank you very much.
Yeah, it's a great family, and I'm really glad to have gotten to sit down. I got to admit, like, though, whenever I heard at the beginning of this interview, when I heard the logo song happen, I had a little bit of a Pavlovian experience where like I just tensed up because I'm like, oh crap, oh no, I'm on camera. Okay, cool, we're good. I don't have to keep my eyes on like the bandwidth or anything like that. I can just sit here and talk for a while.
Yes, indeed. And I'm so glad that we finally got a chance to do this one-on-one so people get to know more about you, and I get to know more about you too. So we'll kind of see where things are at, and hopefully you stay safe down there in LA, and I'll do what I can to avoid the snow as best I can up here in Seattle.
Yeah, and we're looking forward to interviewing you at some point.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. Really quickly, my interview yesterday, the guest actually said, I'm going to be interviewing you. She just kind of being funny about it. And she's 14, but then I can't remember. She asked me something about like what I used to do pre-pandemic or something. It kind of gave me a little flash, I guess a flash forward of what this is going to be like. If
oh yeah.
Stuff. It's like, oh, I don't know if I like this.
I'm just letting you know, I'm gonna throw so many curveballs at you. Like, oh man, it's gonna trip you up, and it's gonna be just like brutal. No, I'm kidding. I'm not gonna do it.
And they're all gonna be sidearm too, huh?
All sidearm. That's how we do it,
All right, Carl. Again, stay safe down there, and I'm sure we'll talk again sooner than later.
Definitely. You stay safe up there. Stay warm in that snowstorm you got coming for you.
I'll do the best I can. All right, sir. Have a good night.
You too. Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.